Hello and welcome back to the Comic Lyra podcast, where we comically and literally review comics. I'm Ryan, also known as Comic Stan. I love comic books, but my co-host loves regular books, and this week I made him read a bunch of different comic books, which we'll explain why that is in a bit. You've probably seen from the title. And with me, as always, is my aforementioned confined co-host, it's Jamie.
Yo, what's up? What's happening? What's going on? We're in the podcast sphere.
Did you find this was a breath of fresh air doing a bunch of different comics?
Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
I really, really liked one of them.
Good. I'm especially glad to hear it because we're doing Absolute Superman next week. So anyway.
Oh, no, we're not. We're not.
But this week.
No. You can't make me.
We'll talk about it at the end of the podcast.
No.
As if
we
it's
need
undecided.
to settle it now.
But anyway, so this week, it was actually spurred by annual thing, which I always forget that's going to happen, and then it happens. It was the Eisner Award nominations.
Yeah.
Now, for anyone who doesn't know, and if you've seen the title and just been confused, the Eisners are basically the Oscars of the comic book world, in the sense
the
that...
Oscars of the comic book.
I'd say
it's
so.
the most prestigious award.
Yeah.
For a thing, yeah.
For this kind of medium.
Yeah.
It's just far less reported on and acknowledged by the wider world.
Yeah.
But it is the same importance to scale to, other awards and stuff. And just like with other awards, there's a bunch of categories that no one even thinks twice about until they look at the big old list.
Yeah.
And they don't recognize any of the nominations. And it's the same with this one. But there's one area of nomination which I thought would be a great idea to give you a little less to do this week because you were at a wedding that just gone.
I was at a wedding. Congratulations to the happy couple. Thank you for a lovely wedding.
Congratulations. We know they're listening. So
to Mr.
one of them are.
To Mr. and Dr. Historical Correspondent.
Exactly. What's the common parlance for wedding is
many happy returns.
Many happy returns. I was thinking of good tidings, but I was like, I think that's Christmas.
Good tidings we bring.
It's definitely Christmas. So, one of the nominations within the Eisner Awards is the single issue / one-shot one. So I thought, that's great. We can cover a couple of those.
Yeah.
Have a look at them, see which one we think might be the best. There's 6 nominations. We're doing 3 now. Maybe we'll do the other 3 if we get a chance.
Were these just the 3 that look the most interesting to you?
One of them. So one is, I'll say now, one of them is an issue of Ice Cream Man, which we've covered before.
Oh my God.
So it was very interesting.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
galling and beautiful and awful.
Exactly. One is one I've been looking at for a while because it was a comic that was actually won an Eisner Award, I think, last year.
PeePee PooPoo.
It is PeePee PooPoo, yes. Which I'm going to hate saying because I don't say either of those words ever. And I have to say them both twice.
And it's
every time.
Really serious and artsy as well.
It's a bit of everything, which I think will make it very interesting to talk about. And the third one is a kind of info comic is the best way to...
The third one's going to be really hard to talk about because it's essentially... Yeah, it's like an info comic about women's health.
Yes.
Or, no, sorry. That wasn't very 2025 for me. It's an info comic about menstrual health, specifically.
And reproductive health.
Reproductive health is what I'm looking for.
Yes.
And that's not just women's health. That's anybody who menstruates.
And that is referencing specifically the comic in question because that's how it kind of approaches everything. So I think with that one, we'll tackle that best we'll say what we think about the topic up top, but I think the main area to look at that is how it presents as a information-giving comic.
I mean, it's weird for me as a guy who's expecting a child to be like, woo, abortion, but also, woo, abortion,
but it still counts. It's still there,
Still valid.
Still valid. So, those are all the comics, and let's start with, I think, the most galling one. And
oh my God, Ice Cream Man.
Yes.
Fucking hell, Ryan. I don't know, I changed departments at work recently, so all my days at the moment are very long days doing something I don't fully understand yet. And then I rushed home, I got home, I opened this comic book and was like, fuck, that's not what I needed right now.
This is the worst aspect of your job.
God, fuck, you literally, yeah.
Yeah. So this is specifically issue 39 of Ice Cream Man. For anyone who doesn't know, Ice Cream Man is a horror anthology comic. So different story every issue, or maybe every 2 issues if it's a 2-parter like this one was.
Yeah.
It's got a kind of running through narrative joined by the character.
Parts?
There was, but the only one was nominated.
Right.
So
okay.
I did read the second part, so I'll tell you about it. But the one that's nominated is nominated for a reason. It's the better one for sure.
Hell, Ryan. Yeah. Who wrote it? Who wrote it?
So it was written by W. Maxwell Prince, art by Martin Morazzo, and colors by Chris O'Halloran. And again, there's a running different stories every week, horror-esque kind of stories. It's got a running theme of the character, the ice cream man, who might be the devil, might be an interdimensional being.
Doesn't turn up in this issue.
He does not in this issue, no. Which is fair enough because how it's laid out and stuff.
So I think we should take a different approach this week. This week, because normally we talk about art and then we talk about the comic. I don't think we've got time to do that.
No. And Ice Cream Man, it's a very consistent art. If you've seen it, the art is just all I'll say briefly is the art with generally Ice Cream Man. It's pretty standard for the most part, and then it'll have these big splash panels where it really invests and does creepy looking shit.
And this looked like Ice Cream Man.
Yes, exactly. It's almost standard house style art, but it's just a little bit off.
Yes.
Which I think works hugely in his favor. Do you want to tell us, it's not quite the story of this issue, it's what is this issue? What happens?
So, the story takes place over 28 pages, specifically.
And how long real world time?
5 seconds.
5 second story.
And we see a family colliding.
The Johnsons, I believe.
The Johnsons having a head-on collision on the road from New Jersey with a truck and all tragically dying.
Yep, that's it.
And that is what it dwells on. So...
And we chose to start with this comic.
Yeah, fucking hell, man.
I thought it would be less galling than talking about abortion for the end.
Yeah, this episode is tough, man.
What do you want to talk about? PeePee PooPoo, abortion rights, or a family of 4 head-on collision? All fatal. I'll take the car crash first, please.
It's so rare that we get Ryan to crack up on air in the episode. You're usually so composed.
It was just the ridiculous. When I realised what I chose, I was like,
what you've done?
Oh boy,
what have you done? So this comic book, the Ice Cream Man series is quite knowing, and it's very much it wants you to be aware that you are a reader reading a comic book. And I think this one really leans into that because it starts talking to you about the technique that it's using. And it's a technique that I'd never heard of, but I looked it up afterwards and it is a thing called decompression, where in comic books, they will display things over more panels to make it kind of take longer to read than it would actually take to happen. And they give an example of a comic book character jumping and posing as they fall and showing that over 4 or 5 panels where really it would be a split second. And it's a masterful use of that technique.
Oh, fantastic, yeah. The fact it's never still. When the parts you're looking, it's always moving very slowly.
Yes.
It's never just a still shot. And I think it challenged itself almost to not do that, because if you're telling a story that's 5 seconds over 28 panels, I feel like it would be cheating to just be still shot, still shot, still shot. Here's little move, it's always moving.
And there's such microscopic movements, but it leans into the way that the 4 different characters, a father, son, daughter, mother.
You probably should remember that one.
all experience their death. And so it shows you how time slows down for dad and he sees his whole life flash before his eyes. Time also slows down for mum.
It does it really well, and I think just a credit to the plotting is it does his life from childhood to when he meets the mum.
Yeah.
Then it does mum's childhood to meeting dad, and then both of their lives from meeting each other to
together.
Present. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we see the son kind of mourning a future he won't get to have.
Yep.
And the daughter was asleep. And so she's having a real fucking creepy dream about her parents' divorce.
So this was what I forgot earlier. When you asked if the Ice Cream Man was in this, he's the guy talking to the daughter in her dream. Or in the whatever she's imagining in that few seconds.
No!
Yeah.
That's so creepy!
Because there's a giant spider behind him, just chilling out, not doing much, just hanging out. I think the girl even pets the spider one point.
She does.
But the spider is the representative of the Ice Cream Man. That's kind of his other dimensional form or something.
God.
So we did cover Ice Cream Man way early on in the podcast.
But 6 issues of it.
Yeah.
No, we did a lot of Ice Cream Man. We did 12 issues, didn't we?
We had more time back then.
Yeah.
So with Ice Cream Man, there was an issue where they kind of gave a lot of the lore of the character with also without giving barely anything.
Yeah.
But there's another character called he's kind of like a cowboy
Yeah.
character, and he's kind of the opposite of the Ice Cream Man, where he's kind of gruff and like reserved, but he's apparently good, and he's represented by a wolf. And the Ice Cream Man is more smiley but evil, and he's kind of Batman and Joker-esque. They got a little bit of that going on. But so that's the Ice Cream Man. He's got the creepy smile and the long hair, and he's talking to the girl.
But this was masterful storytelling.
Yes.
It told you so much about the parents and who they are.
I think the best thing it did was tell you right off the top, these characters all die. There's no, like...
Not only do they die, they're already dead.
Yes.
At the point that you are reading this story, this whole thing has happened and they are dead.
I interpret that more as that we are at the point of the crash just starting, but because now it's inevitable, they're essentially dead.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's a point of no return. Like, from this point where we meet them, there's nothing that can change their fate.
And so... for me, what's most interesting is what's happening in all of their brains. But also, I think the other thing that's happening here is they're giving you a play-by-play, blow-by-blow narration of how these 4 characters die in a car accident, and they all die differently. Like, Dad has, like, glass in his eyes, and he's, like, he's smashed his head on the steering wheel, and then the seatbelt's cut, so he's flailing around. Mum's knees have like knocked her own teeth out.
Yep, and that's why you should never have your legs up in a car.
That's why you should never have your legs up in a car,
especially if you're the driver. That's more funny in England because we have the pedals, not the automatic, whatever lever on the side that most Americans have. That's funnier in English, but it's funnier in British, basically.
It's funnier in British English.
Yes. And then sentence I never thought I'd say on the podcast, but the children die from presumably blunt force trauma. But also you mentioned the comic book earlier. I did really love that where the boy was reading comics and they used those flying through the air to show the example of decompression.
So cool.
Very meta.
It reminded me of the tone of something like the start of Fight Club, maybe?
Yeah, had that vibe, for sure.
Energy.
The very morbid,
but blunt.
Yes, bluntly morbid, not trying to be like, woo, like just factually telling you really awful stuff.
This is maybe the most impactful piece of horror writing I've ever seen.
I literally thought the same. I thought what was so good about it as a horror was it was taking a relatively mundane kind of tragedy.
Yeah.
As opposed to most horror when it's like, monsters and gore and that kind of stuff, where when it's so over the top, you almost kind of desensitize to it.
Becomes camp.
Exactly. It's so mundane, but it's also just pulling it and expanding it and forcing you to examine it really closely.
Yeah, and so unbelievably tragic as well.
Yeah. I thought what was interesting is I think it plays with this thing with any kind of fictional media, where you're watching characters and it just by virtue of watching them, seeing them on screen, you just want not bad stuff to happen to them, right? And especially where, the conventions, they're presented as the nuclear family, going on a holiday, presumably. So just innocent people going about their normal life, and then this tragedy happens. And you see, when you're presented with any characters like that, you don't want bad stuff to happen to them. Normally, like, if bad stuff happens to characters, but the show wants a TV show or film or whatever wants to be okay with it, it's like they look like they look like bad guys with leather jackets, or they're smoking, or they've got tattoos like that. They're coded in a way where people are like, they might be bad guys, So this being like nuclear family, white picket fence, that kind of thing, horrible tragedy, and then just opening up, being like, we're going to force you to look at it in really close detail for a really long time relative to comics.
It's impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so powerful.
It's impressively cunty.
And and I think that's Ice Cream Man had that kind of air of that, where it had the creepiness of like something else happening, like something, was it fantastical or spectral, whatever happening. But a lot of the main kind of stories were like, these are things that could happen.
Yeah.
Apart from like, it would go kind of, especially fantastical at some points, but a lot of the stories are kind of quite grounded, which inherently make them more scary. Yeah. Their only kind of running narrative is, oh, there's the Ice Cream Man, and maybe he's caused it all somehow. Like, he's certainly enjoying it. Maybe he's just rocked up with a chair to watch. Maybe he's the puppet master. Who knows?
It's impressively bleak.
Yeah, exactly. And I totally understand why this has been nominated. I think it's amazing for what it's done in such a short time.
I think it would be a tragedy for this not to win an Eisner.
Yeah, I think it's interestingly comparable because last year we looked at a couple of these and we looked at the Nightwing issue.
Last year we specifically looked at the winner of this category.
Yes.
And that Nightwing issue was good. This is good.
Yeah, they're both similar in that they're doing unique stuff with the 28 pages of a comic book.
Yeah.
But it's not just, it's taking the interesting vehicle of the story, pun intended, but it's actually been like, but remember, we're a horror story, so we're going to make this really deeply unsettling to look at.
It's on another level.
Yeah.
It is honestly a game changer. How this passed us by until now, I don't know.
Well, yeah, the thing with Ice Cream Man, because I was thinking this, I'll say just a bit more about the comic itself. The constant use, the repetitive interjecting of Tom, look out the truck, or whatever it is. But it's basically the wife screaming at the guy to look out for the truck. They keep putting that in to kind of remind you, like, what's just happened or what the sound is that's happening over this 5 seconds. It's... In terms of Ice Cream Man as a kind of series, I think this is actually quite representative for me why I didn't keep following it. That sounds antithetical, but with an anthology series, anything like that where it's like sketches or anthology series or whatever, the fact when they can vary in quality, that for me is, even if there's particularly great ones like this one, the fact that it's not consistent, not even that consistent, the fact that it's not a through narrative for me is something that for me that lacks, that doesn't draw me into continuous series. So like I really enjoyed Ice Cream Man when we read it. I wasn't like, God, I can't wait to read next week's issue, next month's issue. Whereas even with a less good actual story, I'm like, I'm really enjoying this. I want to see what happens to these characters. You don't get that with an anthology.
No, but it also means that you get this magic.
Yes, exactly.
Every once in a while you get absolute magic from it. Like, yeah, it was really impactful. I mean, sometimes I fall prey to skimming comics.
And you couldn't in this one.
No, how can you skim this? It's so punchy and so vividly drawn that it commanded my attention. And that is more than I can say for a lot of comics that we read, unfortunately. What's
especially good about this, well, I'm just looking at it now, is they could have definitely gone more gory with the crash.
They didn't need to.
They didn't need to. I think what they do so well is they have just enough to get across the injuries that are happening, but it's the look of the characters. Either their eyes closed and they kind of look almost like helpless in these nanoseconds that's happening, except for the dad whose eyes are wide open, and that's, well, I think even worse, because he looks like he knows what's happening as it's happening. But we know that's not true because the brain can't even react that quickly. Even despite what the comic's saying about like his life flashed before his eyes, like, you know, bit of poetic, you know, license to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But we know like he looks like he's experiencing it.
People do report that being a thing that can happen during a near-death experience, though.
Yeah, and there's always that back and forth about like, is it just the brain kind of filling in gaps and stuff? Like, how real is it? It's one of those things that's very difficult to experiment with. It's like, all right, we're going to launch you in a car into this wall, and you tell us if you remember what color the fuzzy dice were on the on the mirror.
Killed another one. Fuck's sake.
All right, bring in the next one. So I did read the second part, and I thought if you were interested at all, it takes place for the truck drivers in the other car.
Did they die?
One of them does, one of them doesn't. The one that does just got confirmed that someone was publishing his short story. And then it turns out at the end that the short story was about the subject of decompression and a crash and that kind of stuff. So it kind of loops back. It's like, did this happen to him because he wrote the story? And that's what, like, maybe the Ice Cream Man, if he's doing this stuff, is, you know, that's why it happened or whatever. One very important detail, which was kind of always the reason I read the second part as well, is to see who was at fault for the crash.
Who was at fault?
It looks like how they drew it. The truck is on the lines and it's the family who veer into their lane. And as it's happening,
Mum and Dad had just been arguing.
That, and as they're arguing, you hear it from, you don't hear it from the truck's perspective, but you see the speech bubbles. But the dad is like, we'll pull over, the next stop, tell me where it is and we'll pull over. Like, I'll do it, like that kind of sternly. And the mum's like, we've been going for ages. Like, you must be tired by now. He's like, I'm not tired.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Which is just that, again, that cherry on the top of how bad that is
Yeah.
to have happened that way, and how common a conversation that is for people in cars.
Yeah, totally.
Especially amongst a family where there might be a little tension or whatever. Again, some of the backstory.
He's trying to get to where he's going. Kids are,
But that backstory is that things weren't great between the parents either.
Yeah.
So it's all this little bits of tragedy. There's nothing, apart from the crash itself, which is the biggest tragedy.
Yeah.
It's just so many little bits just make it a little bit worse and a little bit worse.
Yeah.
And I think it parcels them out so well.
Keeps nudging the dial ever so slightly every time you have another revelation. Oh, it's dark. It's so dark, mate.
Yeah. And that's why I think it should win the award for best.
So anyway,
Yes.
Abortion.
Should we save that for the third? Let's
We
lighten it
can't-
up now.
We can't end on abortion.
I thought we could do like a...
Well, I suppose we kind of... No, we have to end... We do have to end on abortion,
A
don't
lot of
we?
things do end.
Yeah, because we're going to lose like 2/3 of our American listeners when we start being pro-abortion.
I don't know, more than 50%, I think, are pro-choice. Well, let's get into that. Because I think that'll be part of the conversation
PeePee
as well.
PooPoo!
Let's lighten things up for a little bit with a story about a woman's introspection into her life. Is that the best way to put it?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us what the comic's about?
Well, it's just kind of, she moves to Philly.
Yep.
And she's hanging out. She's getting high.
It's little adventures that kind of happen in her life that are very real things, aren't
Do you
they?
know what it reminded me of?
Are we going to say the same thing?
Master of None.
You know what I was going to say?
What's that?
Scott Pilgrim.
Do you know what?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
actually.
a more realistic Scott Pilgrim.
Scott Pilgrim if it was written this year.
Yes,
Because the story is very 2025.
Yes.
2024, whatever.
I was reminded of Scott, like when little things happen and like her who we're talking about, the writer and artist Caroline Cash, who apparently self-published this series and it's just taken off. So what's interesting to know is this is PeePee PooPoo issue number 1. It's the 4th in the series.
Oh, how does that work?
So she just literally releases them with the most random numbers. Do you want to guess what the previous issues are called?
Go for it.
Or what they're numbered? Well, I'll give you a get. So they're all the name and then the number and then an issue number, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to guess what the numbers are?
No, well, like 8, 17.
If you were being a bit humorous with the numberings,
69.
one of them is 69, yes.
So
you got 1, 2 more.
legs 11.
No. What does she do in this comic? What are one of the things she does?
420.
420, yeah.
Yeah, nice.
The third one you probably won't get,
Okay.
but you will enjoy. Do you want to guess?
I can't think of any other funny numbers.
It's 80085.
Boobs! It's boobs! Oh, I like her more and more.
Yeah?
Because I liked this.
Yeah, it's really nice. It was, again, she's previous issues, I don't know which one specifically, I think won an Eisner the previous year, which is what kind of turned me on to. I mean, I saw the list, even when it was the nomination, I was like, PeePee PooPoo. And I looked up, I was like, all right, this seems actually pretty cool.
Yeah, this is really cool.
Yes. So, this one nominated for single issue again. And it's basically, it's little kind of windows into this woman's life.
It's little and it all feels really trivial until you kind of read through it and it adds up to a real picture of what this person's life is like.
Yeah.
It's deeply autobiographical from what I can gather.
It's a similar vein. How to put this? It feels in a similar vein, but in the complete opposite tonality to something like Mouse. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The day-to-day stuff in Mouse, not as much the historical, concentration camp stuff, but the modern-day interaction
Where
stuff.
Art Zimmerman is like hanging out with his dad and his French girlfriend.
Exactly, yeah.
Totally.
It had that kind of vibe, though in a purely presentational kind of way. The context was obviously the complete other end of the spectrum.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there, actually. I think that's a really good point. I found it really charming.
Oh, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed being in the world that this writer was kind of constructing for the comic.
And I think it does speak to a lot of people's lived experience and in a really light-handed way touches on some really big topics. Like, there was the scene where she'd gone to that bar and she gave us a list of all the people that hit on her in a bar. And it was like, you know...
Was it like oblivious straight guy?
Yeah.
While she's kissing her girlfriend, he's like, you girls. It's like, all right, mate.
There was a bunch of college girls who wanted them to tell them if they were hot or not.
Yeah.
There was a girl who just wanted a drink. She just wanted a drink buying for her.
Yeah, it was girl who just wants a drink, and a girl literally saying, "Can I have a drink?"
Yeah.
Which that almost is like the comedy of not doing anything.
Yes.
Intentionally. So I found this is the kind of thing where you're kind of viewing someone's like not just their life, like their like moment to moment kind of experiences of things.
Yeah.
And that I think is where you find like it's the little intricacies that, especially when it's in someone who's just got a different life from you, is endlessly fascinating.
Because this is clearly a very cool, very cosmopolitan woman.
Yes.
Like, I want to get an espresso martini with her. She sounds real fucking cool.
Yeah, yeah.
She seems like she would be really cool, like too cool for me to actually hang out with, because I'd be a bit like weird and awkward, you know?
Yeah. But like, and I agree with you. She seems very cool, but I think what's so interesting is this kind of storytelling, which the writer is so good at doing, is it could be anyone. It's just fascinating to see someone different from myself. It's their, again, moment to moment things are happening to them or as they're experiencing them, but it's their immediate like thought reactions and stuff.
Yeah.
Great use of narration for a character in a comic because it's not the thing's about to explode. We gotta save the city. It was at that moment I thought I better save the city. Like, this is real life, and someone's like in a monologue as they're reacting to it and giving you like the full kind of as close to their experience as you can.
And again, it felt like a little anthology, didn't it? Because there were all these little snippets. Each storyline only lasted 3 or 4 pages at a time. Yeah,
and in a similar way, the Ice Cream Man kind of paints this picture of this horrific world where all these separate horrible things happening. This just kind of painted the picture of someone's life, like as they are living it in this kind of current time.
I think the most impactful one for me was the one where she told us that she'd stop smoking pot, and then she ate a gummy and went for a walk.
Yeah.
And her phone ran out of battery, and it kind of started to feel a bit scary.
Yeah.
And then she was like, I just need to get to a Dunkin' Donuts so I could charge my phone and get some munchkins. And I was like, I've fucking been there, sister. Do you know what I mean? I just need to get somewhere where I can put 10% worth of battery in this phone and eat some sugar and I'll feel better.
But even within that, like in the kind of scale of like these like comics and the stories they tell, where it's like big superhero stuff was like, again, we got to defuse the bomb, like that's the tension. But here, when she was like, I've got to get to Dunkin' Donuts, I also want to buy a thing, I, as the reader, was like, but the reason you're in this is because you've left your wallet
lost your wallet
at home. You don't have any money,
yeah.
So what are you going to do when you get there? And then there's that little bit of relief where it's like, you have to buy something to use the bathroom. And she's like, I was like, have you got any money? And then she pulls out like a wad of change and a couple of ones and like, give me the munchkins or whatever. And I had that little like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, totally.
And it's, again, it's not the big universe or world or city stuff of superhero, you know, or any kind of big, you know, fiction, high stakes fiction. But it's so, the way it tells it from her perspective, it makes you invest. So a little thing like you won't be able to buy food when you get to this place you're going to, like that becomes the stakes relative to the situation.
And it was tense.
Yes.
It was, that moment got really tense. And I think she was really cleverly playing on the fact that as modern readers, we have an understanding that like a city alone at night for a woman is a really potentially quite dangerous and scary situation, right?
Yeah.
And so, and she didn't ram that down our throats. You know, it wasn't like, again, it didn't have the Batman narration where it's like, Philly's a scary city for a woman alone at night with no phone. It was like,
it showed you.
Fuck, I couldn't get into the bar because I forgot my wallet and my phone's dying, and this is potentially a hairy situation, so I just need to get to a well-lit place that has a fucking phone charger and some munchkins.
Yeah. And even along the way, her walking along the street, and what they could have done is they could have had like a big empty street with like a lone person who looks kind of scary.
Yeah.
Instead, what it does is within that almost comical style, it has like a busy street where she's walking amongst, but it's just a bunch of like bad, not quite bad stuff to be like worried, run. It's just stuff that kind of puts you on edge. Like the one I just remember off the top of my head is there's a guy driving in a car and he shouts at a woman, a different woman who's walking the other way, and she shouts back at him. Yeah. And it's just that kind of stuff happening where you're like, what's going on here? Like, what's this area? Like, am I all right here? Like,
and then I really love how it pays it off. And she gets home and she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. It all went so wrong. And her partner's like, you've been gone an hour.
Yeah.
Like, it's totally fine.
Yeah.
And it was just this really like, the out breath that I gave when her partner said that, when she was safe, laying in her partner's lap, and she was like, it's okay, you were only gone an hour. I was like,
well,
you know?
That's the other thing I was going to say about this is despite it being someone with such a kind of different life to us, it's such relatable. They're written in a way where they're just universally relatable kind of concepts, like that getting home when you were worried or something, and like little bits like I wrote a line she said just because it made me laugh where she goes, it was coming out of winter. She goes, goodbye, seasonal depression. Hello, regular depression. And I'm not depressed or anything. It wasn't identifying that little. But what it did remind me of was I saw a meme around the time of like, March when it started to get a little sunny. I saw a meme that I just perfectly captured. I felt it where it was like, you say you don't have seasonal depression, but when that first proper sunshine hits you and you're just like Superman coming back to life, like, and so it just reminded me of that. Like, again, those very universal things that it just apply to everyone.
Yeah.
The other one for that was, not as much applying to everyone, but like I said before, seeing someone else's different, life and little things that you don't think about. Just her talking about swiping on Tinder as a lesbian, and one of the things was she was going through the people she always sees.
How do you find it when you swipe on Tinder as a lesbian?
Well, they get mad. They get very angry. Fair enough. Absolutely understandable.
I have no business being here.
What she's going through the people she always sees, and one of the people was my ex's exes, and I thought that's really interesting. Like, I kind of focused on that a little bit because, like, as straight people, we don't have that problem.
Yes.
So yeah, I thought that was interesting. Of like, oh, that's something that we don't even have to think about or deal with,
and that is a thing.
Exactly,
it is a thing in those communities,
and this is why it's such a positive to just get stories like this out there of people who to the masses, the majorities of whatever kind of access you're looking at of people. It's why it's so important just to see other people's stories, because you just, even just the little things, they go, oh yeah, that's like an interesting quirk about how other people live, that I wouldn't have known if I hadn't have read their story. So
yeah, totally. I think this is such a worthy nomination.
I felt it was such a good, like, punk rock kind of comic, like real punk rock as well, where just the fact that it's called PeePee PooPoo is just such like a fuck you to, like, we need to make it marketable, like we need to make it like interesting, like that. It's kind of a middle finger to, like, no, it's going to be exactly what I want it to be, and that's what's going to make it good. And
again, it's called a zine.
Yes,
and I don't know. I
think that's a, what's it called, Silver Sprocket thing, who did this and the abortion one. Yeah. So I think they are maybe using that term more for their stuff.
Do you know much about zines?
No, not at all.
So a zine is
it short for magazine?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a bit of the way there then.
But it's a very particular type of magazine.
Right.
So a zine would always be self-published.
Yep, like this was.
It would often be, if you go to like the bookstores in big American cities, the cool ones, the cool parts of cool American cities, you go to the bookstores, you see, and you like take a piece of paper and fold it a specific way, and it makes it into a little booklet. And people would make these zines and then like fucking go into libraries and photocopy them and hand them out and stuff. And it was like a way for, predominantly in the early days, punks, like proper crusty punks, would like spread ideas amongst each other, and they'd share their artwork, and you'd have inky fanzines which were like printed on shit paper really badly and like written by communities. Like the zine thing is really firmly rooted in punk culture.
So this kind of, without it being distributed in that way, it kind of captures like the essence and the culture of that kind of thing.
It's so fucking punk, Ryan.
Yeah.
It's great. It's so fucking punk rock.
And real punk where it's like, I have a kind of issue with punk, because I always, it's little things I notice when, like, I never probably got into punk music, which is what people think of when you think of punk, most people. And I thought it's interesting when now I listen to a lot of modern music. not that much. I'm not cool or anything, but I listen to like some modern bands.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that the traditional structure of like verse, chorus, breakdown or solo, chorus again, end. That people don't really use that these days. Like they might if it fancies, but they're very much like a whatever happens. Some songs are just choruses now.
Yeah.
But if it works for the song, then that's great.
Yeah.
Sometimes like bloody Daft Punk, like did just said around the world like 1,000 times or whatever.
It's such a great tune.
Yeah, and exactly, it works for that song. So what I thought was the reason I mentioned all this in a really tangent is I think it's interesting how punk rock in like the 70s or whenever it came about, it was like, yeah, we're not going to do things like how everyone else does it. Well, how does a song go? Well, it's verse, chorus, obviously. Like, we're not going to change that. Like, I thought it was interesting that they didn't fuck with that. Like, they seem to kind of defy everything else. But
some of the British punk did.
But no, so none of the stuff that got popular, I guess.
No, I mean, yeah, the evolution of punk music's really interesting because most of the really great stuff never got recorded.
I suppose that makes sense because they were too punk to even bring a recording machine or get into a studio.
Yeah, they were just doing house gigs in sweaty squats.
Yeah.
And then a lot of it's not really remembered. Even some of the stuff that did get recorded. So people remember like the Ramones and the Pistols and people like that. And, you know, the Pistols were very punk on that first album, but
even they were like kind of put together boy band-esque. Like they were constructed from the ground up, weren't they? I'm asking, I don't know. Like, I just feel like that's something.
It happened more organically than that.
Right.
But there was a certain element of posing from some of the members, yeah.
Yeah. I think the most...
Sid was very punk.
Yeah.
And Sid Vicious.
Yeah, and he does seem it, to be fair. I think the most punk of the mainstream was the guy in The Clash, the main guy. I can't remember his name. But his whole thing about was like he couldn't play guitar, basically. Like he could only do the simple chords. So it was like, fuck, I'm gonna do like this. Like that's the most punk thing, where it's like it's not even like anti-establishment. I can't do the complex stuff, so I'm just gonna angrily do the simple stuff.
And the Clash are a really great example of kind of where punk was at its coolest, which is where it was kind of drawing on the other influences of the day, because obviously the Clash has a really strong kind of ska influence as well. And, you know, a lot of the punks would also be listening to and consuming old rocksteady music. But yeah, this has a real punk aesthetic. Even
just not needing to tell like what it might think people want to hear. Like it really is just the writers. This is what I want to draw and write today.
I'm so chuffed that this person's passion project has gained traction and she has people reading her work.
100%. I hope she gets opportunities to do bigger stuff if she wants to do bigger stuff, because that can be a trap for a lot of like young early creative people.
But what she's doing right now is really fucking cool. And it's I mean, unfortunately, I think if anything's going to win that Eisner, it will be the Ice Cream Man. And I'm not saying that's unfortunate because it's phenomenal.
Here's the thing. The only other bit I'll mention on PeePee PooPoo, issue number 1.
PeePee PooPoo issue number 1, also known as issue number 4.
Did you like the did you like the Pokemon Game Boy reference?
Of course I did. Yeah. Of course I did.
I looked at it, I thought James was going to fucking love that.
Well, it's
surprised you didn't mention it first.
It's because it skips to a panel and suddenly she's a fucking Pokemon character
on the original red, blue, yellow map.
Yeah,
to be like, where the fuck am I?
It's so rad.
That was also another cool bit, was the tension and release of when she walks past a guy who's like on a stoop with his dog, and she's a bit like, like, I hope I'm all right.
And she gives him a smoke, and he's really cool.
Yeah, because I think he calls to her.
Yeah,
he calls to her, and he's like, hey, lady, whatever. And she's like, yeah. And he's like, you ever smoke? And he's like, yeah, all right. And then she's like, hey, which way to wherever? And he's like, yeah, just go a few miles east. And she's like, cool. East. Yeah, cool. It's like, which way is east? That's a very relatable young person speaking to an old person thing.
Totally.
But I think it was really good, that tension release of like, is something about to happen? Okay, everything's fine.
He's cool.
Yeah. And he wasn't, it was a realistic, he wasn't just like, hey, he was still like that kind of like closed off, bit guarded, like a stranger kind of would be. But he got across the air of like, you're fine if I'm fine if you're fine. Like that kind of vibe. So in terms of the awards, I think it's interesting you say about Ice Cream Man winning. We'll talk about the abortion one after this, because I think this kind of will feed into that subject a bit. There is a little bit of a thing with awards where like no award is truly unbiased, right? Yeah. No award can really award anything on like quality alone, because quality in itself is so subjective. So I think there is an element here with like other awards where it's like, is the subject of the thing more, is that going to get a win over what might more be a consensus like quality winner, if that makes sense. So of the other three that we may or may not do, and I do not like, we will get across where we stand on this. I don't want to get into it right now just because I don't want to spend the time on this episode. We're about to talk abortion, so let's keep to that. But one of the other comics in the other three is literally, it's about Gaza and Palestine.
Right.
So, and we don't know we haven't read that comic. We don't know
so
what it's like.
so glad we didn't have to talk about that today.
Exactly, yeah. Which were you going to talk about first, Palestine or abortion? And we're not laughing at the subjects, we're laughing at the absurdity of those being the only two subjects to talk about. So the reason I say this about is I would not hold it against someone to be like, maybe we should give it to the Gaza one, even though I don't know what the quality of the comic is.
Yeah.
Just to be like, let's spread some awareness about this. Whatever.
Particularly because the Eisners are held in America, right?
Yeah, in San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah.
But also the sentiment is it's something that, you know, when people use the word controversial for something, it's like, it's not controversial. It's just there's a loud minority about, like, if you actually take a consensus, it's not. There's a clear majority of something.
I don't know. I mean, that's the topic I just don't want to talk about.
But so my point being is, Ice Cream Man, this issue could be like the best use of a single issue to tell a comic story.
Yeah.
I would say for me, of the two we've just talked about, I feel like it's more deserving than PeePee PooPoo because this is a good thing she's continued, and this is like the fourth in just, you know, a series that she's seemingly maintained a really good quality in. I feel like Ice Cream Man is more, it embodies the achievement of a single issue.
Yes.
Like what a single issue can do.
Yeah, totally.
So that all being said, we don't know who's we'll pick our favorite once we've maybe talked about the other three.
Yeah.
But now we get on to the really comfortable, like slipping into a warm bath, the topic of talking about abortion.
Oh, great. Two straight men talking about abortion.
And this is why I want to pose to you. Let's maybe just talk about the comic as how it rates as a thing to get information to people in a world where that information might be contentious, you know?
It's fantastic.
Yeah. And for anyone who's even wondering at all, and I think I comfortably speak on your behalf as well, we're both pro-choice. Like,
yeah, 100%.
That's where we're coming from. In England, it's not been an issue for so long because we've got up until, I was looking earlier, 24 weeks, which I didn't know the exact number of until I looked up today.
It's 24 weeks, and then
after can be done in doctor recommended circumstances.
Yes. And so, and this is a really pressing issue. Have you heard about the woman in America right now?
I mean, which one?
There is a woman in America right now who is not conscious. She is hooked up to a life support machine, which her family all want to pull the plug on because she is never going to be conscious again. She is pregnant with a child that has a genetic condition, which means that it probably won't go to term. And the state are making them keep that life support machine on because it is now illegal to abort a fetus, and to allow the mother to die would kill the fetus.
Yeah. And the problem with that, like,
that is the world that this comic is going out into.
Yes.
And I'm so sorry to tell that story on this podcast that's normally a very jolly, happy place.
We saved it for the post 40-minute mark. Like, if you're still with us now.
Fucked up, man.
Yeah.
So fucked up.
And the problem with those specific, like, extreme scenarios is it's not even, it would be more kind of clear-cut evil if the pro-lifers were just like, no, we don't want you to do that because our beliefs or whatever. But the reality is sadder. It's not that anyone's forbode it. It's that the doctors are like, we don't know if we might be arrested after the fact if we do allow it.
Exactly that.
It's the fear that's been cultivated because of these overly extreme prosecutions in other areas. And not even like some states, not even a prosecution, but just the fear that it might happen
and
is
enough. And to be clear, things are bad in our corner of the world as well. In the Republic, abortions are still illegal in the Republic of Ireland. Women still have to, like, pregnant women who have babies that they don't want to or don't feel that they can carry to term still have to fly to England to get abortions on the NHS, because even though abortion is legal in Northern Ireland, they essentially, even in Northern Ireland, they won't give an abortion to a woman from the Republic because the law's from the Republic and they're still on the island, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous that there is, in any corner of the world, a restriction on what should be healthcare.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
This isn't a political topic. This is healthcare. And I'm not saying anything fucking revolutionary. It's just a simple fact. This is healthcare. So specifically, this comic book goes into chemical abortions, doesn't it?
Yes.
So we're not talking really like gnarly. I mean, I suppose the thing is, abortions themselves are never positive, right? Like the hormonal shit that a person goes through when they terminate a pregnancy is always rough.
Yeah.
An abortion is always going to be an emotionally fraught thing, but it can also be a joyous thing for somebody because now they know that they get to live their life without having put a child through being parented by a parent that never wanted to parent them, or ending up in, the system of fucking social services and being adopted and fostered and all that shit. And I think this does a really good job of towing the line of being really positive and showing abortion for the positive thing it can be in the lives of the people who need it.
And while simultaneously acknowledging that for some people it is just an easy procedure to get done, and for other people it does have an emotional weight. Yeah. And it acknowledges both equally. It says like both are equally valid responses, and however you respond is fine. And
I knew it was going to be the right tone from the opening panel where it says this was written by 3 people who think that anybody should have the right to have an abortion at any time for any reason. Yeah. Right? Blam. I'm on board. I knew that. And again, I did read it, and I checked out the medical advice that was in it, and I had a quick Google around it. Not an expert on reproductive health. I did have a Google around it, and everything that they were saying seemed pretty rock solid and pretty sound. Again, in my ill-educated opinion. And it does all the right things, and it presents it really beautifully. And I think for somebody, this is going to matter.
Oh, yeah, 100%. It's one thing I should also say, which I thought was very interesting, is this is the one comic that is completely free to read on the website for obvious reasons. You can still buy it on other places, which I think is, like, I saw it on Amazon for money, and I was like, why? But okay. But it's free on the website. You just literally need a link and a internet connection to read it. And I think that's part and parcel with, the message they're trying to get across in it, which is cool.
Yes, I agree. And, I think this is painfully necessary in the world we live in.
100%. But it's becoming more necessary here because we've got American pro-lifers coming over here trying to influence and start like a proper pro-life movement here.
Do you know abortion's technically illegal in the UK?
I didn't know that. I know I've always understood it to have its grey areas. I didn't know if it was fully or even any kind of technically illegal.
It's technically illegal. You cannot technically elect to have an abortion. A doctor needs to prescribe one to you.
Right.
And so the process for getting an abortion in the UK is fucking weird.
Yeah, you can't just order the pills online, do them at home. You have to have them administered at a medical place.
Well, you go to a clinic, right, they give you an address and a text message and tell you not to tell anyone where it is. The clinics have no badging on them. No NHS badging, no nothing to stop protesters. You go, you have an appointment, you have a cooling off period, then you go back and a doctor basically says, I am saying that you have to have this procedure.
Yeah.
That you have kind of come to me and asked to be consulted on. Then they give you the pills. And the pills we use in the UK technically aren't abortion pills.
Okay.
They are pills that do something else. They're pills that have another function of like reproductive health. And a side effect of them is that if you are pregnant, it will terminate the pregnancy.
Yeah.
And that's how they get around it. The NHS has to get around Britain's laws, which are that technically you cannot abort a pregnancy.
And it's ridiculous that they even have to do any of that bollocks. I understand. So when I looked up the rules and it said that you still need to go to a medical professional to get done, I did think, well, that if you give it the benefit of the doubt, I appreciate that in that case, a doctor could be like, oh, you can't take it right now for this specific reason.
Yes.
Like, you've got this, like that. Have you got, like, someone needs to give you the checklist to be like, have you had this before? And people are bad at filling out basic information at the best of times.
And if we're being frank, that is the way that most medicine. So
yeah,
this will sound mental to an American who can just doctor shop and pay a doctor enough money and get any pill they want. Because you're paying a lot of money for it,
well, as long as the pharmaceutical rep has been giving free gifts or bonuses or whatever to the doctor to recommend said pill.
So in America, you can, you know John Mulaney.
Yeah.
He did that special after he stopped doing drugs.
Dr. I can't remember the name. Dr. Michael.
Dr. Michael. Basically, John Mulaney said that in America, if you want to get any drug, you go on WebMD, you search for doctors in your area, and you filter for the ones with the lowest star ratings. And
they need your business.
That's exactly what he said. That doctor needs your business and will prescribe you fucking anything. In the UK, we have a nationalised health service. And so if you go to a doctor in the UK and say, I think I have this, I think I need this medicine, the doctor will say, oh, no. You and I will have a conversation and I will decide what fucking medicine you need, actually.
And to be fair to the freedom people in America, wherever it might be listening, that you can still go to different doctors. You can still doctor shop in a similar way. But what you're shopping is like their opinion, their expertise, not who will give you what. Like they still operate within a similar framework.
You have to go to your GP, who is your registered GP, and it's all about where you live and how close you are to them.
Oh yeah, you can't just go to any. You have to register with a different doctor.
And then if you want a second opinion, they will then do the complicated process of referring you into a specialist via your local hospital, and it's a whole thing. Accessing healthcare in the UK is a conversation for a different day because it's becoming more and more difficult. That being said, there are checks and balances here. And so there are very few medicines that you can just go and get your hands on in the UK without like illegally importing it from America, basically. And so it's not unusual that a medicine that you would have to speak to a doctor to get a medicine in the UK. It would be weird to me if you could get that kind of healthcare without talking to a doctor first.
Yes.
But the fact remains that actually people's reproductive rights are being challenged. And I was literally having this conversation with my partner the other day, and she said something really pressing that I'm going to repeat here. Thank you, darling. Which is that the fact that abortion has the grey area status in the UK it does is terrifying to her, because it only takes one bad government to say, fuck it, we're repealing Roe v. Wade. You know?
Roe v. Wade.
Roe v. Wade.
Yes.
And
that's a very insightful thing, and I'm glad you're able to pass that on. Which girlfriend said that?
Current one.
Okay.
Fuck you, dude. Fuck you. Like, she's pregnant, man.
No, things were pretty somber. We need a laugh just in between the somber stuff, yeah?
And so actually having this information, because again, we're both relatively well-educated people who
speak for yourself.
who feel relatively strongly about this topic. I know I certainly do.
Yes, yeah.
I didn't know what the two pills that you can use to do this job are called.
No. When I read them, I had that thing where I recognized I'd heard the names before.
Yeah.
Could not tell you what they did specifically, or even the you could take one without the other, but not the other one without the first one, and all that kind of stuff. So,
totally.
Yeah, this was very educational, even for people like us who hopefully will. This one is a medical procedure. Like when I say hope to never get one, it's like I hope I never break my arm and need a cast. Like it's that. But if I do break my arm, I really want a fucking cast, and it's that same thing.
And this is it. Like, I hope to never be in a position in my life where I'm party to an unwanted pregnancy.
Yes.
But also, if that does happen, then I would really want the person that I've unfortunately knocked up and did not want to knock up to be able to have the fucking right and also the access to information to be able to make that informed decision. And this is exactly what this comic is aiming to do. And I think it's so noble. And I think it's really cool that this medium that we both are enamored of to different degrees and for different reasons is being used it's a really great use of the medium. The medium lends itself so well to this. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think I was going to say kind of basic similar thing. I think this is the best medium for this kind of information because it's clear, like the use of visual and writing it gets across information in a really easy way. If you have a talented enough artist, then, when they work well, then you can make it this good.
Yeah.
It's easier than, like, it could be a PDF that you could literally send to someone and it's relatively small to send to people.
Well, we found that was actually a bit of a challenge today, didn't we?
Yes, yeah. But the fact that, again, you just need a link in an internet connection to access it, you could do more with moving visuals or video or whatever, but then you are you're increasing the requirements for someone to be able to view it. And we know everyone's got YouTube on their phone, yes, but even just to sit someone down and watch a video, or like, this is easier to just, someone can start looking at this if they've got a few minutes. Like, you know, when you see a YouTube video, it's like 10 minutes, you're like, I don't know, do I really want to watch a 10-minute YouTube video? Like, people can look at the beginning information and they could just keep scrolling and reading. And like these days, like, it's a weird tangent to go on, but you know, the attention span of people, this is actually reading something is more engaging than just passively watching something, because we passively watch so much stuff. And you know, we know this with comic books, like, you actually engage if you're reading something.
I had a really interesting experience recently along similar lines. So my partner has been reading baby books, and they have been encouraging me to also read baby books. And I've been struggling with the baby books because they're long and they're dense. And she's given me really great ones.
Which normally you like in a book.
And she's given me really great ones as well. Like, you know, I've been leafing through What to Expect When You're Expecting, the classic baby book. I've also been reading some really well-written books that approach it from lots of different perspectives. The book that she gave me, which really hammered it home and which I learned the best from, was a graphic
novel.
It was a graphic novel hypnobirthing book written
by Alan Moore.
If only.
Strap yourself in. Get your cigarettes.
Because I've heard they make for a smaller baby. But no,
he would write that, wouldn't he?
He fucking would. He'd write, mate. He was like 3 bad ideas from putting it in Watchmen. But no, she gave me like a graphic baby book, and I digested it, and I've retained more of it than I did the really dense sort of science heavy ones. And we have a fucking spectrum of them written by all different types of people for all different purposes. And the one which stayed with me was the graphic one.
Yeah.
To the extent that I considered saying, Ryan, can we talk about it on the podcast? And thought, no, that's a bit out there for the podcast.
But now this...
Little did I know, 2 weeks later, we were going to talk about a car crash, an abortion, and PeePee PooPoo.
Which is kind of having a child in all aspects. The car crash being metaphorical, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
The end of your life, like that kind of thing.
Right. You need to not. You need to fucking not.
I see exactly what you mean, and like, I think especially in, like I said, with the whole attention span thing, pictures and words combined in a good way, I think is the optimum way to get across information. Because again, we're so, like, everyone that I know will watch TV and films and stuff while scrolling their phone.
Yeah.
Like, it's just second nature, especially, like, I have to put my phone away to that's my mark for when I really like film and television.
You need to get on that dumb phone.
Well, no, but here's the thing. I'm kind of viewing it. I'm using it as my own kind of quality meter. Because if something is good enough that I just don't feel the need to go on my phone, then I know it's good stuff. Like, I don't watch as much stuff I used to, because I realize, like, why am I bothering to watch this? Like, and there is that gap of, this is a different conversation, but there's that gap of, like, you just want stuff playing in the background while you're doing other stuff. Like, I get that. But you know, when you like sit down to watch something and then you're on your phone, it's like, well, there's no point watching this. My point being, I think this is the perfect medium to get across this information to the widest possible scope of people. Yeah,
they've done a great job. I think it's really noble. Whoever wrote it, you're doing the world such a service.
I missed naming the people who wrote it, so I am going to bring that up now. And that is Isabella Rotman, Sage Coffey, and Marnie Galloway.
You guys are fucking rock stars. You're doing the world a service that it needs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing more said. Like, absolute rock stars, you know. And I just think that, because it looked a bit corporate.
Oh, yeah, I think it looked like a pamphlet you would be given in a place, wouldn't you?
It did, yeah. But
I think it's the same techniques, the work here and work there. It's like soft, neutral colors, very warm and inviting. Like, it's the same. It's trying to get people in to read it.
The difference is...
This is for a good cause.
And it was beautifully well done.
Yes.
And there was such a high level of artistic integrity.
Did you know?
Do you know what I mean?
Did you notice? And I almost didn't. The 3 people who wrote this, and they've got their comic versions of them in the story. They're three ever so slightly different styles of comic.
Yeah.
And I thought that's really good because not only are they, you have to look close to notice it, but when you do, for a comic fan, you're like, that's a cool thing.
They're three different styles.
Yeah. And
no, I think it's so valid and so necessary in a world where this particular right is being eroded daily. And I think they've hit on something where it's like, actually, this medium is such a great way of conveying dense information.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And we talked about that a little bit when we did the Sapiens comic book adaptation.
That was way denser than this. I mean, it was the entire history of humankind, so fair enough.
But again, much lighter than the written book.
Yes.
And this is the thing, isn't it? You can take something really unapproachable. And this is, I mean, we've done quite well. I think it's because we've approached it from the perspective of we have an opinion and we think our opinion is the right opinion and we're just going to stick with it.
As opposed to people like, I have an opinion. I'm probably wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know those people.
We've approached a really delicate topic indelicately because it's the only way we know how.
Much like a car crash.
Much like a car crash or an abortion. But
we are not going to be championed as like the spokesmen for the pro-choice movement, and fair enough.
I think you and I are a good argument for abortion, Ryan.
We're definitely a good argument for why men shouldn't talk about it. But as straight white men, we're damn well going to.
Yeah, why the fuck not? There's not a cultural door we can't kick open, Ryan. We're straight white men.
Exactly. And people want to hear our opinions. Anyway.
Do you know what? I was telling two of my colleagues today, two women, that I have a podcast because I was like, oh, I've got a busy week.
That was those 2 extra listens.
Yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, no, I've got a podcast recording tonight. I went, I'm not a misogynist, by the way. And they looked at me and they were like, what? And I was like, it's not that kind of podcast. We talk about comic books and abortion. They were like, cool. Green flag.
That's what works. And yeah, I think we've covered the abortion one as much as
we've covered it more than we should have done.
Yes. Way more than we should.
It should have been an honourable mention where we were like, there's one about abortion, it's great.
You should read
move on with our day.
Yeah. And we can end on some comments as a kind of light end. One thing I noted down while the last episode was being edited by the editor, they relate to me. So one thing we noticed about was a Russian audience. Do we have any Russian audience?
Do we?
It turns out that of our total downloads, 0.32% were downloaded in Russia.
Wow. Now, hello, Moscow.
Whether those were VPNs in Russia or not, we have no way of knowing.
Yeah.
But still interesting. So,
do we think our little pocket of over 65s in Switzerland might actually just be VPNs?
They could be, but also why? They might have accidentally left it on when they were doing other stuff that required them to be in Sweden, and then they were like, I'll download the latest Comic Lyra episode, and they've left their VPN logged on. So, yeah, perfectly possible. But, I thought that was interesting nonetheless, and so we did get a couple of comments on the latest episode to come out at time of recording, which is Ultimate Wolverine. One is returning superfan Leon Goopy.
Hello, Leon Goopy.
Just said, yay, more Ultimate stuff. Hope you guys are doing well. We are doing well, and we hope you're doing well. You let us know how the job went. I think they got sacked from their last job, so let us know how the job hunt's going.
Well, they can clearly still afford an internet connection, so that's good.
That is very good. That's the most important thing.
It's the most important.
Yes. And if you've got free time, just download every episode again.
Yeah.
If you can.
Cheers.
You don't have to. Don't do that.
Oh, no, because he will. He will.
But if you have free time, just, why not? And the other one I just thought had to be mentioned was, while talking about Ultimate Wolverine, we talked about actor ages and Tom Holland.
Yeah.
I said I thought he was 15 when he got cast.
Yeah.
And someone commented, Tom is not, this is from G. Luke J.A., said, Tom is not that young, and in capitals LMAO. Extra O.
Laughing my arse off.
Yeah. And I looked up, and turns out when he was cast in the role of Spider-Man, he was 18.
Oh,
so
okay.
I was close enough. Come on. Fair. I respect a comic book guy style correction. Actually, I think if I would have appreciated that more. The fact that they were dunking on me, and it's it's 3 years. Come on. I know 15 and 18-year-olds
They were
say,
dunking on you over 3 years while he still hadn't hit puberty, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't think Tom Holland has hit puberty yet.
I mean, he's probably on the blockers for Hollywood reasons.
Yeah, fuck it out.
I want to keep you looking young, kid.
Poor Zendaya.
Well, anyway. Anyway, there. I think that's as much as we can cover for this week. And like I said, we had a great, interesting week this week, especially for you taking a break from the superhero stuff.
Yeah, it was great.
So next week, Absolute Superman.
I don't want to do it.
It's
I
happening.
just don't want to talk about it. It's not going to be good.
I mean, I've said it now, so we
have you read any of it yet?
Well, we've both read issue 1. So
and it wasn't good.
I mean, it's just starting. The first Absolute Wonder Woman wasn't great, but they got better as they went along.
Ugh, God.
Plus, they got Tomboy Lois Lane with the short hair, so that's something. Is that anything?
I don't know that it is. I don't remember.
Well, you heard it first. Anyway, Absolute Superman next week.
Absolute Superman, absolutely.
All right. Tell them bye, and I'll play the recording.
Bye.
And thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, then please subscribe to get notified of our future episodes as well. And if you're feeling particularly generous, then please leave a 5-star review on whatever podcast app you're using. If you'd like to get in contact with us, then send an email to comiclit@gmail.com. You can also watch videos by me on the Comic Stand YouTube page, which is linked in the description. Thank you, goodbye.